From Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, bandits invade mobile police camp, kill 3 officers in Niger State, as many killed, others displaced in Zamfara. 20 years after just religious crisis, survivors still struggle. While Abuja residents speak on challenges with landlords. And on the foreign scene, 2-day African Union Summit in Addis Ababa seeks to address crisis over coups and COVID-19 pandemic. Hello and a warm welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. I am Chijoke Okafo, and now on the news in detail. Bandits have invaded the mobile police camp at Ishau, Paikoro local government area of Niger State, killing at least 3 officers. Daily Trust reports that the bandits were passing through the area when they came in contact with a team of mobile policemen. The Niger State Police authorities could not be reached for comment, as spokesman of the command, Wasiu Abiodun, was out of reach at the time of filing in this report. While gunmen have attacked Karfi ward in Malum Fashi local government area of Katsina State and reportedly killing 17 people. Sources say the attackers invaded at least 5 communities under the Karfi ward on Friday, shooting sporadically at the helpless citizens of the areas and murdering 17, while scores were left with various degrees of wounds. A member representing the local government council at the State House of Assembly, Aminu Saidu, who confirmed the incident, said he visited the areas and sympathized with the families over the unfortunate incident. There are increasing criminal activities recently in Katsina State, with the police authorities attributing it to the influx of bandits from Zamfara and Sokoto states due to the ongoing military operations in those states. Unspecified number of persons were said to have been killed by suspected terrorists who invaded Yerkatsina Laka in Bungudu local government area of Zamfara state. Sources said the incident happened on Friday when members of the community were observing Jumu'at prayers. The suspected terrorists opened fire on them, killing several persons and injuring many others. In another incident, no fewer than 20 persons have been reportedly killed at Nasara Maifara in Tsafi local government area of Zamfara state. The incident occurred Thursday when suspected terrorists invaded the community, shooting sporadically, killing over 20 persons while displacing several others. The Zamfara State Police Command has confirmed the 2 separate incidents to Trust TV's news via telephone conversation.
There was no attack in Bogamet Kofa. There was an attack in Nasarawa.
Okay.
On the there was also an attack in Erkatsina. Erkatsina is in Bungudu. And what happened is that the bandits divided themselves into, because that location is manned by the military. So the bandits distributed themselves into 2. One group went and engaged the military. So while the military were also engaging the group, then the other group sneak to the village and attack the community. So yes, so that's what happened. But in that Magamit Kofa that you are talking about, and in that Nasarawa yesterday, the CP, the brigade commander, the commissioner for security and home affairs, that is Maman Fati,
Yeah.
and other security operatives, tactical operatives of the security of the joint security forces.
Yes.
We went to that Nasarawa. Number 1, to commiserate with the families, with the communities, and 2, to assess the existing security arrangement of the village with a view to taking more security measures that will forestall further attacks on that community and environment. So that is what happened. There was no attack in Magami proper.
Now, addressing bullying and sex abuse in schools dominate discussion at a one-day stakeholders workshop on Safe School Initiative in Gusau, Zamfara State, northwest Nigeria. Participants stressed the need for government and relevant stakeholders to do their best to ensure school environments are safe for learners and staff so that even in conflict or emergency situations, learning can continue. The report.
Participants are drawn from government agencies, civil society organizations, non-governmental, public and private schools, among others, in the state. The convener of the workshop, Abdullahi Mewada, said the rationale behind the one-day stakeholders workshop is to sensitize and create awareness on the need for government and relevant stakeholders to ensure security, safety and protection of students and staff around the schools.
Safety committees from the state level down to even before the school are open. So we have done that at our own level, that is both primary education.
The Zamfara State Commissioner for Education, Zainab Gumi, speaks on the state government's plan to ensure adequate security in all the schools across the state against the terrorists.
Comprises religious leaders, the traditional rulers, the security agencies, the community leaders, the parents, and the president of that committee, who will be the secretary of that committee. It was with a report, after they submitted the report, that we opened our schools. That is number one. Number two is that we all know that in all kinds of conflicts and crises, we must not shut our schools. We did that because it was first of its kind that was happening in the north. There were kidnappings earlier before, but not as students. So we were very scared seeing they took like 3 schools. So that was why we closed our schools until we were prepared. And we are prepared by dividing all the schools in the state.
Some of the participants speak on what they learned from the workshop.
We should know how to have local aid since they cannot have, like, don't have a way of having safer schools and mandatory insurgencies eradication in various schools. Based on the insecurity happening, the way we can also protect ourselves, some advice I would give to the teacher. I also took part of it, which I can use to also help myself. I don't have to wait for a teacher to help me out through that way. I can also help myself through that way, teaching myself out. Other things like that.
Zamfara State had in 2021 experienced 3 series of attacks on schools and abduction of students and staff. These incidents began with the abduction of 279 students of Government Girls Secondary School, Jangebe, College of Agriculture and Animal Science, Bakura, and Government Day Secondary School, GDSS, Gaya, which compelled the state government to shut down both primary and secondary schools in the state for.
Some indigents of Plateau State who were displaced during the 2001 crisis are still struggling to rebuild life after the ethno-religious unrest 20 years. And after the crisis, Trust TV's Ibrahim Ismail meets some survivors in Narabi, a village in Toro local government area of Bauchi State. Take a look.
Narabi village is located few kilometers away from Jos, the Plateau State capital. 20 years ago, the village received a large number of displaced people from Plateau State due to a religious unrest, which claimed hundreds of lives and properties worth billions of naira. Because of the catastrophic damage caused by the conflict, survivors still struggle to recover from the economic meltdown.
We were managing life before our houses were burnt. We are now homeless and life is hard.
Yanzu ina yi amma komai ya kare na sana'an babu ko kobo bashi ma ake bi na.
I was in business, but I'm now bankrupted. We fed from poor seats. We want to enroll our children in school, but no one is supporting us.
Ba mu da hali da dasi makaranta.
To yanzu ku yanayin rayuwa muna cikin kuncin rayuwa yanzu.
We are in a very difficult condition and worried about the education of our children. Things are getting worse.
Abubuwan da sai cikukuɗe mana yake.
Musamman muna da bukata na samun gwamnati ta tallafa mana musamman ta bangaren matasa da yara mata.
We want government to build a skill acquisition center for our youths and women for self-reliance. They can learn tailoring and other skills. You see, this is better than giving money.
These people demand more intervention in agriculture and education.
Our major problem in this community is that we need a standard school in which our children can be educated. We also need like a clinic or hospital where whenever someone is ill, we can be able to go there. And also the issue of electricity here, they are sharing it. Maybe one day you have it, the other day you don't have it. And apart from that, majority of the people here are farmers. And most of them, they don't have the money to do the farming, more especially because of the issue of fertilizer and some other things. That is our major problem here.
The Plateau indigents residing in Narabi are calling on the government of the state to remember and consider their plights. Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
In other news now, Northeast Governors Forum has launched a fight against illicit drugs and narcotics in Gombe State to tame the scourge of drug abuse amongst youths. According to the United Nations Office 2018 survey on drugs and narcotics, Northeast Nigeria has the highest prevalence rate of drug abuse with 13.6%. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
Worried about the prevalence of drug abuse in the region, the Northeast Governors Forum at its last meeting in Yobe State initiated a unique security meeting to address the scourge. The security meeting was to be held by secretaries to the state governments of the 6 states in the Northeast.
It is a known fact that drug menace and abuse supports terrorism and all other nefarious activities. These administrations specifically is taking the issue concerning drug abuse very critical. From the state government through the special advisor on drugs and narcotics is intensifying efforts in collaboration with other stakeholders, especially the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that are aimed at tackling the problems in order to stem the slippery slope that many of our youths dabble into by use of drugs and other illicit commodities.
According to a statistic released by the United Nations Office of Drugs and Narcotics in a 2018 survey, the Northeast has the highest prevalence rate of drug abuse with 13.6% and over 3 million people involved.
Emerging security issues are slowly creeping up, which have not been seen in any level in the Northeast like before. Some say that these issues may even parallel the Boko Haram insurgency, which we have been suffering and all been victims of in one way or another for the past 10 years.
In In a communique issued after the deliberation by the SSGs on the issue of drugs, they agreed that influx of illicit drugs portends danger to survival of the Northeast region.
The meeting examined the issues along the following themes: the adequacy of our policies to deal with the issues of narcotic and drugs. 2. How the inflow of narcotics and drugs into the Northeast can be disrupted. 3. The roles our traditional institutions are expected to play. 4. Strengthening the investigative and prosecuting abilities of law enforcement. 5. Capacity of our judicial system to deal with the issues. And 6. Issues of rehabilitation and empowerment of victims. Finally, recommendations were made for the consideration of the governors at the forum's next meeting, scheduled to take place in March.
Analysts have linked the highest prevalence rate of drug abuse in the Northeast region to the activities of insurgents, which has been devastating. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Finding a house or an apartment in Abuja is a Herculean task for tenants seeking to find affordable and standard shelter. Issues ranging from high price of rent to outrageous conditions by landlords before leasing out their houses have pushed many to the suburbs of the city in order to get affordable housing. Trust TV's Nafisa Abdullah speaks with some residents on their experiences with renting apartments.
Food, shelter, adequate healthcare facilities, and access to good roads and constant power supply are basic amenities that should be accessible to every human. Nigeria as a country in recent times has experienced inflation in the prices of these amenities such as food items, cooking gas, electricity tariff, and now housing. Abuja rent growth is outpacing the rest of the northern region as the city's apartment market roars back from the depths of the pandemic and puts pressure on the disposable income of residents. A cross-section of Nigerian residents share their experiences on high rent of housing in the FCT.
It's been quite difficult, especially in a metropolitan city like Abuja, where to get a good house in a very comfortable area, the price is quite astronomical. And in those places, places that are considered slums, when you go there to get your house, the landlord, they will want to have some form of insurance that you can sustain and continue paying rent. So they might want you to work in some certain areas, some certain fields before giving their houses to you.
I've seen the landlord who said they will not accommodate a single mother. So he will prepare someone who is married, and also they will go as far as asking the kind of job you do to be sure of getting their rent at the end of the period. Because nobody wants to put somebody in his house that cannot afford that rent at a particular point in time. Seeing the rate of the rent, and that's why it's difficult to get that kind of house in Abuja here.
Generally, rent in Abuja is on the high side. I know, especially in the main heart of the town. But I think the difference is not even too far-fetched. Even at the suburbs, it's still relatively high. If you compare the house rent and income of people, you'll be convinced that it's relatively high. So it's not easy on the part of those that are living as paying rent annually. There's even some forms that you are made to fill, and in that case they will extract every known and unknown information from you. Or how much do you earn, what are your source of income, in fact who is your guarantor, to be able to be convinced that their investment is secured. In case you somehow fall short of the expectation, they should be able to rely on your guarantor. So I know they put people through some serious systems that will make them uncomfortable.
Landlord can't give facing their own room if you not get any work like business. That's not so supposed to the thing be. Because if you not get any work now, they're not going to be where to get your money because the situation with them now. not small thing now. To get him money now inside this area now, you go tell you say 1 point something 1 year, you no get job.
Well, man, it's not easy, especially in terms of payment. You know how the situation of the country is now. Well, we are still coping, but to pay is not easy.
A bill seeking to regulate the payment of rents in the Federal Capital Territory has passed the second reading in the Senate. Nafisa Abdul-Al, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And you're still watching Trust TV News Hour, coming up after the break. Story of Maiduguri Lepers Enclave. Stay with us, we'll be back shortly after this time out.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think he will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a 4th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
And you're welcome back. If you've just tuned in, this is the News Hour on Trust TV. Now a reminder of some of our top stories. You heard that bandits have invaded the mobile police camp at Ishau, Paikoro local government area of Niger State, killing at least 3 officers. And some indigents of Plateau State who were displaced during the 2001 crisis are still struggling to rebuild life after the ethno-religious unrest 20 years after the crisis. Moving on to more news now. Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says 35 new cases of COVID-19 infections were recorded in 5 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, a reduction from the 100 infections recorded on Thursday. The agency said 89 persons were discharged after they recovered from the infection, while no persons died of COVID-19 complications. The NCDC said Friday's report comprised 67 community discharges cases in the FCT on February 4th. With the new infections, Nigeria has now confirmed a total of 253,540 cases, 229,982 recoveries, and 3,136 deaths across the entire country. Lepers in Mole area of Maiduguri say they are suffering from neglect because of health challenges and lack of means of survival. According to the World Health Organization report in 2020, new cases of leprosy dropped to 37% globally. In the same year, it recorded 127,558 new cases. Leprosy is a chronic infectious disease caused by Bacillus and Mycobacterium leprae. The report.
Molai General Hospital is located outskirts of Maiduguri metropolis. Before its transformation, the 60-year-old facility was a missionary hospital that treats and caters for leprosy patients. Behind the hospital is the leprosy colony, popularly called Angwan Kureche. It has over 200 residents in the area. Hadatu Samaila is among many villagers residing here. She contracted the disease 10 years ago after she had a 5-month-old miscarriage. The widow of 5 children lives alone and most often faces difficulty doing chores.
After the miscarriage, I had the disease. I couldn't lift anything. I can't farm. Sometimes I hardly feed. Sometimes I sleep on an empty stomach. My people don't visit me often because of my condition. My children too only check on me once in a while. I want the government to provide education for our children, and we need food.
Most of the residents are farmers, but the fear of attacks of Boko Haram has forced them to depend on support. According to the elders, they have suffered neglect and challenges of accessing affordable drugs.
Patients at home and in the hospital don't have access to drugs. Most of the prescribed drugs are scarce here, despite that we can't afford it. We also can't pay our children's school fees. My son has not completed his secondary school education.
Haka tukuna kuma gwamnati ya zo ya shiga ya karbi Haji Bitirin. Back then, during the missionary time, we were provided all amenities and support, but since the government took over the hospital, things changed. We get support, but not like before. Besides the support we get, we engage in farming, but with the threats of Boko Haram, we are afraid to return to the farm. We only expect support from people or organizations.
Hanatu hopes that her daily life gets easier pending when she and the community have the needed support that will be the source of their survival.
Although resumption of contractors to site after many months is cheering news, a community in Rigasa, a suburb of Kaduna, demand quality erosion and flooding control project completed on time. The project at Angwan Zage Zage, a community in Rigasa, Kaduna State, has been abandoned for over 6 months. The report.
Ungwar Zage Zage is a small community in Rigasa, Kaduna State. Residents of the area said they have been suffering from erosion and flood-related issues for over 20 years. Bilatu Abubakar lost 5 rooms to the erosion problem.
It's been about 20 years since we've been suffering from this erosion. It was not big, but with time, the annual rainfall, the erosion has expanded to this level. I lost 3 rooms to the erosion. Our children often fell into the ditch when going to school, though we didn't experience much death but once. We live in a terrible situation because of this erosion.
Truly, during rainy season, there is no access here. You can see this trench. This is how we enter the trench before we get to the other place. There is no anything. That is how we cope. There is mud. That is how we cross. There is always people slippery. You understand? Yeah. And then the sand also. Sometimes you just see the sand fell. is a danger because it can fall on somebody. There are a lot of dangers.
Resumption of the contractor to the site after several months makes the community happy, though some residents say they are not certain about the job quality, since according to them, the contractor handling the project is not known to them.
My call to government, whenever they start a project, they should let us know who are the people doing the project, tell us the extent of the project, even the cost. It's possible they can tell us the cost so that we can also assess what the contractor is doing. Yes, and even report back to the clients, then report back to those that award the contract.
Whenever there is project, we used to go and familiarize ourselves with the contractors for us to give them a sporting hand. So unfortunately, when we came here, we did all we could to know who are the contractors, but all effort in vain. No any signboard that is placed to identify who are the people doing the work. One, and I could remember there was refuse that was dumped here. We expect them to pack the refuse before putting any other thing.
For years, the community lacked access road, forcing many to relocate to other locations.
Women stakeholders are calling on members of the National Assembly to support the bill seeking to increase women representation in the parliament and in government. They made the call on the heels of the House of Representatives' adoption of a clause seeking to create 111 seats exclusively for women. Trust TV's Sagir Ibrahim has the details.
As the House of Representatives commences its retreat on electoral reforms and the constitution review, women stakeholders are calling for the members to revisit the issue of underrepresentation of women in Nigeria's parliament. They are calling for the reawakening of the proposition for critical actions to promote equal opportunities for the women folk. Key amongst their demands is the call for support of National Assembly members to fast-track the passage of the additional seats bill as well as all gender-sensitive bills.
Today, we are asking the additional seats bill and all other gender-sensitive bills that are receiving attention at the National Assembly to get the support of all members so that Nigeria can move forward in all aspects of life.
They are hopeful that the bill, when passed into law, will form an integral part of shaping Nigeria's future and its ranking among the Committee of Nations.
It's very important that we have more women in parliament. This will balance, our development. It will help issues that are women are more concerned with to be fully addressed. This bill will give Nigeria a place in the international community, and we are very optimistic that the Senate will support the House of Representatives to get this bill passed.
We are here today, not coming here to protest, no, but to lend our voice to say, please, can we pass this bill to have more women in the parliament who understands a woman issue better than a woman? So we need more women there for everything, for national development, for economic development, even for child education, to have more girls go to school and have girls who are not being married off before their 18th birthday. So we're here to support them and to actually say, please, can they do the right thing and help us pass this bill? It's not enough for the National Assembly to make laws. It's not enough for the National Assembly to pass this. We also enjoin the state governors to domesticate it at their state level, because that is when it will really work.
Representing the parliamentarians, Honorable Aisha Duku assured that the Ninth Assembly has set up a special committee to ensure the implementation of all of its bills once passed into law.
The leadership and members of the joint committees will see reason and give, and pass the necessary, bills, such as the 35% in the appointive position, and then the special seats, and also there's a very serious one, the indigenship issue. We have a special committee just to see to the implementation of all our bills passed. So we are making effort to make sure that what we have done, we also see and pursue it to the latter.
The additional seats bill, the Gender and Equal Opportunities, Abuse and Administration Bill, the Affirmative Action Bill, the Women Participation in Elections Support Bill are some of the bills which are expected to revolutionize women's participation in government and politics in Nigeria when passed to law. Sagir Ibrahim reporting for Trust TV.
Contractors under the auspices of the Contractors Association of Niger Delta Development Commission protested the non-payment of over 10 years of debts by the Commission. Members of the association, who were seen carrying banners and chanting solidarity songs, barricaded the gate to the NDDC headquarters with canopies, requesting for payment and calling for the constitution of a substantive NDDC board. Take a look.
Speaking with newsmen, President of the association, Iyade Sylvester, said the commission activities was shut down due to breach of peace agreement between the contractors, NDDC, at a meeting in Abuja over unpaid contract monies and the delay by the federal government to inaugurate a substantive board. Other contractors handling NDDC projects say commission payment verification process is fraudulent act and a way of delaying their payment. They said the failure of government to inaugurate a board for the commission has hindered its smooth operation and payment process.
We reached an agreement for payment for contractors, and as I talked to you, the agreement has been breached. If you promised us that you were going to pay us at December, and December has passed, this is January, and every time I approached the SO administrator, he keep promising me, telling me next week, and our people are dying. And what they are doing, they are paying themselves and they are not paying contractors. I have said this several times. You cannot be paying people who do the silting project, and you are leaving people who did project that community has that the community is benefiting from. It's actually wrong.
Even the verification is another fraud, because I don't want to talk much, because we haven't meant to pay money to do that verification, to verify our project. We have meant to pay money. Now you still refuse to pay. Some of us, the money is okay. The only way they can pay this money is to reduce the money. Now you have reduced the money. Okay, pay us. Still refuse. They give us project to do. We use our money, go to bank, collect our money. We even use our houses for collateral. Now the banks are threatening us. They want to seize our houses. Now come and pay us. They refuse.
Enough is enough. What we want is that pay the contractors. Why you will not pay the contractors? You are not taking care of the people of the region. If you go to our rivers, environmental degradation everywhere. If they want this place to shut down until 2023, we are ready. We are going to cook here. We are going to dance here. We are going to play here. Already we have sent people to the market. Just to make sure that everybody here is being satisfied with food.
Because the contractors are not Yahoo boys. The contractors are not doing an illegal job. What they are doing is a legitimate job to put food on the table, that the children will go to school. It is so sad that somebody will execute a job for 4 years. 4 years, no payment. Some of them have taken loans from the bank. They have seized their properties. Where do you expect them to feed, to send their children to school? It is an injustice. It is wickedness.
I think our husbands, our brothers, our sisters, our relations, our children, they can't pay their fees. If they don't pay them, we will be suffering. We, the women, and whatever is affecting them negatively or positively is affecting us. And let them constitute the board so that NDDC will shape up, and then the people will benefit.
The contractors vowed not to leave the premises until their demands are met.
Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has advised multinational companies operating in the oil and gas sector to upgrade their facilities to be smartly controlled. Zonal Controller of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, Professor Gode Ine, said this during an investigation visit with representatives of multinationals operating the Obiafo gas well in Ebeocha community, Ogba Egbema Ndoni local government area of the state. Take a look.
The visit comes after the gas leak well had fire on the 15th of November, which lasted till 14th January 2022, reportedly caused by the sabotage. Professor Nni called the members of the community to be calm as the commission is working with the Nigerian oil company owners of the sabotage facility to address the situation that led to the incident.
What is important is a comprehensive report of the incident is expected from the company so that we can now submit that
After such a report, what is most important to us is how can we remedy the environment so that we can at least get to the original baseline that the environment used to be.
Professor Nne said a smartly controlled well oil and gas facilities will eliminate human interference and incessant fire outbreak.
If this is a smart well, for example, it could have been controlled from the control room and shut it in without physically deploying all the methods they have used. Going forward, I want NAOC and any other operating companies with the type of trend, security trends around us, we will suggest that the wells should be as smart as possible so that we eliminate human interference. Such well can also be shut in remotely from our offices.
Away from there now, Muslims and Christians in Kwara State want the state government and security operatives to fish out and prosecute perpetrators of a violent attack which led to the death of one Habib Idris in front of Baptist High School, Ijabo, last Tuesday. The crisis followed refusal of some schools to allow willing female Muslim students to wear hijab. The report.
The crisis reared its ugly head again a year after the state witnessed a series of protests on the use of hijab. Some female Muslim students were again denied entry into Oyum Baptist High School in spite of the directive by the state government that willing female students should be allowed to use their hijab and beret in public schools. This led to a protest which later snowballed into violence and subsequent death of one Habib Idris. Addressing separate press conferences in Ilorin and Ijabon, the Kwara State Muslim Stakeholders and Christian Association of Nigeria, Ijabon, called on the state government to set up a commission of inquiry to unravel the brains behind the killing and maiming of the peaceful protesters.
The government should take full responsibility for our inability to protect Muslims in this incident, despite a show of the highest level of civility. It should constitute commission for inquiry to unravel the role of different players, including Kwara State and the police in the ugly incident. Cause the police to investigate the incident, arrest and prosecute the perpetrators of the mayhem.
We challenge the state governor to be man enough to fulfill his promise of the return of our schools. Memorandum of understanding on returning these schools to proprietors have been submitted to the state governor since June last year, but up till now, nothing has been heard about that memorandum of understanding submitted to them.
While the Muslims are asking the state government to strictly enforce the fundamental human rights of the Muslim child in Christian-named public schools, the Christians are asking that the schools be returned to them.
We expect the government to immediately take full control of all schools. All schools disobeying the court judgment and extant government circulars on the use of hijab and related matters.
We therefore demand that the hoodlums be fished out and appropriate actions taken on them.
While both faithful are putting the blames on the doorsteps of the government for not yielding to their demands, a definite decision is expected to find a lasting solution to the recurring issue on hijab wearing in public schools in Kwara State.
Now it is pomp and pageantry in the ancient city of Daura as Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi is to band as Dang Amanar Daura, the trusted son of Daura by Emir Umar Farouk. The Emir says the emirate does not give traditional titles indiscriminately and the minister deserves the title which he recently received. He explained that the title is well-deserved for Amechi, adding that the emirate does not give titles for money but for a class of people who serve the country selflessly. The ancient town of Daura becomes alive with activities as dignitaries thronged the town for the ceremony. Dignitaries including the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, the Katsina State Governor, Aminu Bello Masari, and his executive members, including traditional and religious leaders, were at the event. According to the emirate, his title, Dang Amara Daura, which means the trustworthy son of Daura, is in recognition of his ministry's performance and selfless services, and above all to reciprocate the hand of fellowship extended to Katsina State and the North in general through several projects. The monumental railway project that connects the North and the University of Transportation, sited in Daura, are believed to have been some of the infrastructural developments that prompted the emirate to reward the minister. Turbaning of Yusuf Buhari, son of the president, however, has generated heated argument on the emirate's sensitivity to the rising insecurity ravaging Katsina State and other parts of the Northwest.
Businessman and philanthropic
You're still watching the News Hour on Trust TV. We'll take a short break and bring you more news stories shortly.
From all around the world,
our news is factual and concise,
giving you fresh news as it breaks.
Nigerians in the diaspora have the
Now, one tricycle rider feared death.
Troops fighting Boko Haram and ISWAP.
Although the government has made repeated commitments to make the country attractive.
When I sit on the news desk every day,
there's a deep sense of responsibility that overwhelms me.
A responsibility to deliver a message to our viewers
in the most professional way possible.
Knowing that there's a lot of fake news flying around mainstream and social media daily,
we owe it to the public a responsibility to bring well-researched and responsible reportage to the table.
With Trust TV,
you're sure of a news and documentary channel you can trust.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
And you're welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is still the News Hour on Trust TV. Moving ahead to other stories now. In business, for the first time in 7 years, the price of Bonny Light, Nigeria's premium oil grade, has risen to $95 per barrel, indicating $33 in excess of the $62 per barrel 2022 budget benchmark. Brent crude, against which Nigeria's oil is priced, hit a fresh 7-year high of $93.44 per barrel as at Friday, trading more than half $30 higher than the federal government's benchmark for the 2022 budget. The 2022 budget, which was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari in December, is based on oil production of 1.88 million barrels per day with an oil benchmark price of $62 per barrel. For Nigeria, which relies on crude oil for about 50% of government revenues and over 90% of export earnings, rising oil price means increased revenue. On the other hand, rising oil price also translates to increased cost of petroleum products, as the country depends heavily on imports due to a lack of domestic refining. Let's turn our attention to the foreign scene now. Heads of state have gathered in the African Union headquarters for a two-day summit as the continent reels from a spate of military coups and the coronavirus.
African foreign ministers this week, AU Commission.
The 55-member bloc faces pressure to push for a ceasefire in host country Ethiopia, where a 15-month war has killed thousands of people and driven hundreds of thousands to the brink of starvation.
Musa Faki Mohammed denounced a worrying resurgence of military coup. 4 member states have already been suspended by the AU's Peace and Security Council since mid-2021 because of unconstitutional changes of government, most recently Burkina Faso, where soldiers overthrew President Marc Christian Kabore last month. In a separate development, Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh urged the African Union to withdraw Israel's accreditation, bringing simmering tensions. The dispute was set in motion last July when Musa Faki accepted Israel's accreditation to the bloc, triggering a dispute from powerful members including South Africa and Algeria, which argued it flew in the face of AU statements supporting the occupied Palestinian territories. Shtayyeh said Israel should not be rewarded for its violation and for the apartheid regime it imposes on the Palestinian people.
Israel should never be rewarded for its violation and for the apartheid regime it does impose on the Palestinian people. As an entity, Israel has progressed from extremism to militarism to colonial expansion. This must stop.
The summit is scheduled to discuss Israel's request for observer status after a decision on the issue was postponed by the AU Executive Council. Earlier Saturday, Mohammed said the AU's commitment to the Palestinian push for independence is unchanging and can only continue to go stronger. He defended Israel's accreditation, however, saying it could be an instrument in the service of peace while calling for a serene debate on the issue. The bloc, formed 20 years ago to promote international cooperation and harmonize member states' policies, has struggled to address 6 coups or attempted coups in Africa over the past 18 months, and the power grabs are high on the summit's agenda.
Now, rescue workers in Morocco are closer to reaching a young child trapped at the bottom of a well for 5 days in a delicate operation threatened by landslides. The 5-year-old boy, Ryan Aram, fell into the well in the northern hill town of Bab Bered on Tuesday, and his plight has gripped the North African country. Heavy machinery has been used non-stop, with excavations turning the landscape into a construction site of red earth in the forested countryside. Lead rescuer Tamrani Abdelhadi said on Saturday that they are moving with extreme caution as a wrong move that they attempt to cut through the last narrow section of rock and earth could trigger a landslide. Tamrani said it is difficult to determine the child's health condition because a camera dropped down the well shows him lying on his side. Now in sports, Chelsea needed an extra time winner from Marcos Alonso and a late Kepa Arrizabalaga penalty save to rescue them from a potential FA Cup 4th round exit at the hands of Plymouth Argyle on Saturday afternoon. The Blues record signing managed just 2 shots during a lucky 2-1 victory over League One opposition at Stamford Bridge on Saturday afternoon. A home game against League One opposition looked like a favorable draw for the Blues, a straightforward assignment ahead of their departure for the Club World Cup. And now hopes of ending AFCON with at least 3rd place medal has evaded host Cameroon as Burkina Faso scored 3 goals in the first 60 minutes. The match ended 3-3. In the meantime, Egypt will play AFCON's final with Senegal on Sunday. Moving ahead, before we go, here's a kicker. In November 2019, torrential rains had caused flooding and landslides and killed about 40 people in Kinshasa, and the commune of Mont Ngafula had been one of the most affected. 2 years later, its inhabitants fear the worst with the return of the rains. They are witnessing helplessly the expansion of erosion that is engulfing everything in its path, and which is the consequence of uncontrolled urban development in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
A gaping wound in the heart of the city. What was once the main street of Mount Ngafula on the south side of Kinshasa is now a treacherous ravine. It's just one of the disastrous consequences of unregulated urban development in the capital city of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In the past 6 years, erosion has become so severe that some residents now find themselves on the edge of a cliff.
There is a big hole that is about 17 or 18 meters deep. There are schools that have collapsed. There are houses collapsing. There are markets collapsing. There are pharmacies, shopping complexes. Everything is gone.
Cut off from the rest of the city, the shopkeepers in this deprived area can't do business anymore.
This erosion scares us because we have all lost a lot of things. It makes things bad for us. This road was our source of supply to earn our living. Today, we can no longer do business. I'm a widow and it is very difficult to make a living.
In the past 20 years, Kinshasa's population has doubled. Africa's third most populous city is now home to some 12 million people. New neighbourhoods have sprung up, often chaotically, on the fragile earth of the hills surrounding the city. Going to school remains at best a challenge, and at worst a real danger. Some parents opt to keep their children at home altogether.
I tell you, crossing this ravine is dangerous. It's a permanent danger to have such erosion when the school is taking care of very small children, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds.
Work started to restore the road after protests by angry residents, but there have been construction projects like this before. Up to now, none have been finished, leaving inhabitants to make do themselves on the edge.
That story, we come to the end of Trust TV News Hour. Don't forget to follow us across all social media platforms for more news, updates, and programs. My name is Chijoke Okafo. Many thanks for your time and company, and goodbye for now.